Hi everybody, Joe Cioffi here, 6 o'clock on the nose on Wednesday, April the 4th, 2018. Hope everybody had a great day. We had a weather front that moved on through here in my neck of the woods, produced some strong thunderstorms over parts of New Jersey, but up in areas to the north, the marine layer just never really did get out of the way. We did have some downpours that rolled on through, but now all of that has moved out and colder air is moving in. You know, here we are. It's kind of remarkable. We're at the 4th of April, and we have actually two snow events. I don't think I did two back-to-back snow forecast maps for two events so close together, but we have that. A minor one for Friday, and we have something a bit more important setting up for Saturday. By the way, let me remind you right off the bat, welcome to all of you who are on board. 9:15 tonight on Facebook for the Joe and Joe Show on my Facebook page, meteorologist Joe Cioffi, or you can go to Joe Rayo's page, also Joe Rayo Weather. And again, that's at 9:15 Eastern Time. So let's take a look first off at what is happening close up on the satellite picture this evening, the visible satellite. And we can see that weather front pretty well here, how sharp it is, with the bright white high cloud tops that are out to the east, and of course now the clearing skies coming in behind it. And you can see these plumes that are coming off the Great Lakes. The storm is spinning away in southeastern Canada, very well defined here, and that's producing some lake effect snow showers in western New York and through western Pennsylvania. Of course, those don't ever make it to the coast, but bottom line is that it's a cold, dry air mass that's building in now for tonight and for Thursday. Thursday is going to be unseasonably cold here, with temperatures only in the 40s for highs. We should be up in the upper 50s to near 60 on a daily basis, and that is just simply not happening. Now, let me bring up the watches, warnings, and everything else that's happening at the moment. Whoa, that wasn't supposed to be like that. See what's going on here. Ah, okay, there you go. All right, so we've got high wind warnings continuing through much of Pennsylvania, western New Jersey, virtually all of New York State except the southeast and Long Island, and parts of western New England, seeing winds gusting to 50 miles an hour or more, and wind advisories surrounding that going all the way down into northern Virginia and into the Delmarva Peninsula. All this cold air is bringing hard freeze conditions tonight across Kentucky, Tennessee, northeastern Mississippi, northern Alabama, northwest Georgia, because the growing season is underway. So that's going to be problematic as this cold air gets drawn pretty far to the south. We have the beginnings of winter weather advisories and winter storm watches going up through parts of Montana and into Wyoming in the northern Rockies, and also some winter weather advisories up in central Nebraska. And out in the west, where we have a major storm that's going to be coming into the west coast over the next couple of days, with the flood watches up for much of northeastern California. And we're going to probably see more of this as we move through tonight and on Thursday. And we also have the beginnings of some winter weather advisories in the mountains in Washington State. So pretty busy on both coasts here. And we are now going to focus our attention on the first of two weather systems that will be impacting the eastern part of the U.S. The first one is minor. This is really nothing more than just a warm front from a low that's up in the Great Lakes that is going to push out the cold air mass that we're getting tomorrow. It's going to push it out, and it's going to usher in the arrival of the next cold air mass that's going to set up with the second system on Saturday. So a bit of a warm front, cold front combination on Friday, but nothing like what we had, of course, today. So we'll start with the GFS. We have the new GFS, which will take us out far enough, and we can watch the West Coast also see their weather conditions deteriorate at the same time. So here's our intense low pressure moving up the St. Lawrence Valley and heading up into northeastern Canada. The cold front is long gone. A lot of dry air and cold air coming down into the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes, back up through the northern plains. And then, of course, you can see the rain that comes into the northwest. Going into Thursday, the cold settles in the east, but here comes that surge of rain and moisture into the western part of the United States. And you are now into Friday, so let's go back. This is, if you look up in the northern plains and in the upper Mississippi Valley, you can see the next high is building down. So there's a bit of a front in between. We've got a low pressure in West Texas, and that snow that is streaking down out of the Rockies. So as we move through Friday morning, there's going to be a quick burst, I believe, of snow in my neck of the woods. It's not going to be anything that will cause a problem. It'll come in quick about 4 a.m., out quick by about 8 or 9 a.m., and then gradually push up into upstate New York and New England. There'll be a bit more snow to contend with, though, in parts of northwest Pennsylvania, southwest New York, and across Lake Michigan. And then, of course, you can see there's heavier snows now moving down the Rockies into the Central Plains, and that rain coming into California, which gets very heavy, by the way, by Friday afternoon into Friday night. Some heavy rainfall amounts being indicated in northeastern California. You can kind of see the edge of that storm that's off the Pacific Northwest coast. Now, in the east at this point, we've got a cold front coming through. It really is very much like what we just saw on Monday that happened for my area. The tricky part of this forecast is the fact that the snow is falling in the time of day that it falls, because this is going to be more of a dayside event, which is going to make forecasting snow amounts a bit more difficult and a bit more problematic. A lot is going to depend on intensity. The bulk of that snow comes during the daytime. Unless it snows fairly hard and fairly steadily, you're going to see most of the accumulation on colder surfaces, maybe on some roads, but I think most main roads will likely to remain just wet. If this were to come in a bit faster, or if this were to slow down where the bulk of the snow comes in, say later in the afternoon into Friday evening, then it might be a different story in terms of the accumulation amount. So it's very, very hard for me to kind of get a gauge on how much to go for. If this were a January or February event, it would be a lot easier because I won't have to really worry too much about sun angle issues and everything else. But it's not. It's April. It's going to be April 7th at that point. But this is a decent little wave that's coming out east. You can see it here. And by the way, look for some sort of advisories or perhaps some winter storm watches that may go up for parts of Kansas and Missouri and down into southern Illinois, into Indiana and Ohio. There's your low on Saturday morning, 2 a.m. The cold front is through. This is a fairly strong shot of cold air behind it, low-level cold air that's getting involved in this. So, there is going to be a fairly, let's call it impressive area of snow, certainly for the time of year, that's going to develop out of this on the northern edge of this low center as it tracks. Of course, by the way, in the west, more heavy rains continue going into Saturday morning and into Saturday. Here's our low in the east at this point on the GFS. It's in western North Carolina. Now, the GFS, I'm not 100% sure about the way it has the snow on its leading edge this way. It might take a little longer to get in here. That's a bit questionable, at least from the standpoint of coming in, say, at 4 a.m. I'm thinking the start time is going to be about 4 or 5 a.m. So there's going to be about 4 hours or so of snow where sun angle is not going to be an issue. And I was looking at the soundings, by the way, and the ground temperatures are going to be at 30, 31, 32. So that is going to play in the favor of accumulation. So it's a matter of getting intensity, and that is key. As we go through the day, the low kind of moves straight east. The GFS has been shifting a little bit further to the north with every run. That northern edge cuts off sharply, and then the low just kind of moves out, and it's done. Meanwhile, the next system now from the west is moving into the Rockies. I want to go to the NAM model here and give you the NAM's perspective, because the NAM has been so spot on with so many of these events. It's hard for us to really want to ignore it. The NAM is further north overall, which, if you think about it, that has been pretty much the case with almost every system that we've had to deal with during this winter season. Here's that first burst of snow for Friday. Again, very fast. This is at 8 a.m. It's a narrow band, just kind of like a warm frontal band that goes by, puts down a quick coating to an inch or so, and in some places it may not even be that. And here comes the low for Saturday as it moves out. The NAM, I think, there's no reason for me to go against it. By 2 a.m. Saturday, there's your low with the low center east of Nashville. Snow up into central Indiana. You can see some darker blue snows in southern Indiana into southwest Ohio. The low pushes east. Now this is at 5 a.m. Starting to see snow filling in and breaking out in and around the New York City area over Long Island. Central and South Jersey starts as rain, snow, and that darker blue snow in southern Pennsylvania. But the northern edge is much further north than what the GFS has. And again, I kind of think that this is the way to go with this system. By the way, in the west, you can see that the NAM also impressive with the rainfall amounts there. Now, this NAM run was also a little colder because the earlier run where you see the sleet area in purple actually showed rain. I'll go close up now. We'll go real tight on the northeast. And you can see that it shows this band of sleet. So this is the colder air getting involved. This is by 11 a.m. I'm thinking that we may see the model trend colder as we move through time. That is my prediction here. 2 p.m. we're starting to see the low pull away to the northeast. Still snowing, but then it's just about gone. So again, it's basically 4 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's when the prime time is. And after about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, you're going to play with that sun angle thing. So you got to get the intensity in order to put any kind of accumulations. If we timed it out the same way we did the Monday system, this would probably be another 6 to 8 inch snowfall. But it's not working that way in terms of the timing. I'm going to be probably at my wit's end trying to figure out where this all goes. And then as we'll go back to the GFS at this point and show you what's happening beyond that, because we have yet another system that is going to be coming into the east, and it's going to try to take a track further south. The GFS and other model trends have been further south with this, and we have a low developing off the North Carolina coast. High pressure and some cold air here Monday night into Tuesday, kind of on the edge. I'm going to wait to have any judgment here. And then that low starts to move northeastward off the North Carolina, Virginia coast and heading on up northeast from there. I'm not sure how strong this is going to get, whether it's going to wind up being something more important than what the model's showing, because if you look at the trough, it's not really all that deep. The GFS and other models seem to be trending a bit less impressive with the upper air system. That might mean for a colder atmosphere, by the way. So we're going to have to kind of balance this all out. If we get a really wrapped up system this time of year, you're likely to see warm air come in from off the ocean more than likely. But if it remains a little bit more benign, then we might see more of a more wintry precipitation than rain. Meanwhile, in the west, we've got a wrapped up storm off the west coast, big ridge out in the west. So remaining probably pretty busy there in the western part of the U.S. There's another surge of rain coming in for early next week. Now, where am I in terms of the accumulations? Let's bring up, I've got my 2 forecast snow maps. Didn't do that all winter long, and here we are in April, and I had to do 2 snowfall forecast maps because they're both inside my 72-hour time frame. So this is what I'm thinking for my area anyway for Friday. Again, I don't think this is a huge deal, unless that warm front starts to fire up in a big way. Friday, from I kind of drew it across the north shore of Long Island, across New York City. From there, north and west, a quick burst of snow, a coating to an inch or so, maybe a little bit more in some elevated areas, and then You go a little bit further north up into northern Pennsylvania and a little further north in the Hudson Valley north of 84, maybe 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 inch snowfall, also elevation driven, extending that, of course, into southern New England, north of 84, that 1 to 2, 1 to 3, an inch, coating to an inch or so when you go south of 84. Again, elevation is going to be important. Now, here's what I did for Saturday. Very general, early call forecast. Some people will look at my early call forecast, and hold me to it for 3 days. 3 days later, and that's just not how this is supposed to work. This is an early indication. It's going to change, and I'm going to be adjusting for all those factors that we've talked about over the next 2 days. I probably won't change this much until we get into Friday, but for now, I'm thinking, given the time of day and what we're dealing with, potential for several slushy inches for northern New Jersey, maybe mainly north of Route 195, and then I put in this band of the potential for 4 or more throughout southern Pennsylvania, on up southeastern Pennsylvania, say up around Allentown, Lancaster, Reading, north of Philadelphia, back over into north central Maryland westward, northeastern Virginia, and into West Virginia. Mix or just rain, southernmost New Jersey down to Delaware, a little bit more as you get into northern Delaware, and I kind of stuck a band there of 1 to 2 inches, and that slushy inch potential running across southern Connecticut into southeastern New England, 1 to 2 once you go north of 84. Remember, the trend in all of these has been to be colder, and at the same time, the trend has also been to shift the systems further north. So they actually have trended to be warmer, say, on the southern flank, but colder on the northern flank, and you wind up in that zone near where there would be the changeover line is where the heaviest snows will fall. So again, we're going to probably see this change over the next couple of days as we begin our usual tendency to start adjusting depending on what models are doing. Why don't we let me first bring up the rainfall map. We have a little bit more here on this. But you see how the GFS takes this low for next week on Tuesday and starts to wrap it up a bit as it goes offshore. So we're going to have to watch that. That could wind up being, another surprise here. It actually, deepens the low rather substantially once it's southeast of Cape Cod. And hopefully, from the standpoint of the long-range pattern, that's the last one. But let's look at the rainfall here. Total accumulated precip. In the west, you can see very much a wet regime here with some 2 to 5 inch rain amounts running from central and northern California northward up the west coast into Washington state. In the east, some of this is going to have to be, these are all the events combined, so we've got some little sliver of 2 inch plus liquids there, but mostly between 1 inch and 2 inches for the 3 events. The bulk of this is going to come, what we really want to pay attention to right now is the precip for the first event. So I'll just go to the 24-hour, and we'll use this view because at least this will help folks out in other parts of the country. Here's the system as it drops down and begins to form. So across southern Missouri in through Kansas, you've got some 1/2 inch plus liquid amounts in through Kentucky and West Virginia. So that would support a snowfall maybe on the order of some 6 inch snowfall amounts. Remember that in a lot of this area, much of the snow is going to fall at night, so it'll stick. And by the way, I was looking at the soundings here reflecting ground temperatures that are down in the upper 20s, so that is also going to help considerably in terms of the snow accumulation. Now, as far as my area is concerned, we are looking at that 1/2 to 3/4 and 3/4 of an inch to an inch setting up for Long Island and for much of central and south Jersey down into northeastern Virginia. The NAM actually is a bit more bullish with this. You might want to subtract out a little bit from the NAM because it has some earlier precip here in its equation. but still, every bit of an inch of liquid here. The NAM has got 3/4 of an inch to an inch of liquid, maybe even up to an inch and a quarter in some places. And that 1/2 to 3/4 goes well up into the Hudson Valley and into northeastern Pennsylvania. So let's bear that in mind, that we may still have to do some adjusting on the northern end here if the NAM's more northern view of this is correct. You know, the trend is your friend, as I've said many times. We are going to stay with the, going to lean heavily on the model that has done the best job. At some point, the NAM is not going to do the best job anymore, and hopefully this isn't it. Although, at least if it happens now, it's on a Saturday. It's not a high impact type snowfall as if it were to occur during a weekday. And here's how the NAM sees it. Now remember, if every flake sticks, this is the NAM's picture of the snow. So it's fairly substantial. Let's say that if every flake were to stick on this, use that area, the brighter purples that you see, and the pinks, that would be, I would guess, the best risk of where you could wind up with a stripe of 6-inch plus snows across eastern Kansas, central Missouri, southern Illinois, southern Indiana, northeastern Kentucky, southeastern Ohio, northern West Virginia, and then kind of spreads out a bit wider as we move into Pennsylvania and over New Jersey and into the Hudson Valley. But again, remember that the NAM is further north. The GFS will have a smaller area here, a little less impressive, but it still manages to stripe out some 6-inch amounts. Again, the GFS colder and further south, so it's favoring South Jersey, southeastern Pennsylvania, and on up into northeastern Virginia. The European was more to the south, but again, the European has just not been the model of choice for so long that I'm not really paying a whole lot of attention to it. I didn't look at the Icon model today. We'll see what that does. Even the Icon model is further south here with a heavier snowfall for, say, the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area into southern New Jersey. Again, the Icon model, like the European model, has not done well. And in fact, if you look at the Icon model, it's slower with what it wants to do. It actually holds the snow, more of the snow back. Doesn't bring it into later in the day, into Saturday night. I think this is a little far-fetched. It's got much more of a slightly more well-developed wave, and that could be the reason. But if you wind up with something that is slower, then you're going to have to change the equation on how to figure out where we're going with snow amounts here. Let's at this point, let me jump to the wide view. We'll go to the GFS and just take a look quickly at the longer term pattern, which honestly I did not look at it today, so we'll look at it for the first time together and see where we're going with this. So here's your trough for Saturday with this upper low in Labrador and the trough that extends straight south. It's not a half bad looking trough here. And here comes the next one. Again, the GFS is really backed off on the depth of this as it swings up. And I'll go back one model run so we can take it forward from here and see if we get a breakdown in this pattern, which we really want. We want this thing to break down. So as we move through next week, does look, at least as we go into the weekend of the 14th and 15th, we get into a bit of a ridge here in the east. At least that argues for seasonal temperatures. Not particularly liking this blocking high that seems to form from southern Greenland on over into Hudson Bay. It's still trying to keep troughing here in the east, which does not make me especially happy. So if we look at the long range on the GFS, if you're looking for some kind of prolonged spring-like weather, doesn't look like it's happening. And very quickly, we can take a look at what's happening in Europe. We'll bring up the precip and go back to square one. So here we are this evening, snowing up in Scotland as that low pulls out into the North Sea. We've got another storm with some rains over the weekend at least into Saturday. Gets briefly better on Sunday before some more rain showers come in. And then it looks dry into the first part of next week across much of the British Isles. A few showers coming in from off the North Sea as we move into the end of next week, but doesn't look like any big storms are coming for the British Isles, for Ireland, and for Europe, for Western Europe in the next week or so. So I'm sure at least you probably are happy that your weather has calmed down just a little bit. All right, folks, let me jump on the board tonight. Again, glad to see everybody. Welcome to any and all of the newcomers. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button. It's absolutely free. You're helping me to grow, and the more I grow, the more I can do here, which is great. Timothy Veltman spying 2 first call snow maps. Yes, you did. You caught that well. I didn't do that all winter long. Doesn't happen too often. ZEUK in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, at near Parks Racetrack, which I have to get to one of these days. I like horse racing very much, and I'm gonna have to take a trip down to Parks to play the ponies a little bit. So welcome aboard. Yes, you've got the high wind warning going for a while longer out your way. And what was my prediction forecast for snow accumulations if this were the end of January or beginning of February? JSABNH. The NH, I'm guessing, is New Hampshire. If it is, it's one of my favorite states, if not the favorite state. If this were a January, February event with cold air around, actually, if you think about it, we're running every bit of 15 degrees below average. So we would be talking about air temperatures that would probably be, this would be an event in the wintertime, we probably would be sitting with temperatures in the 20s. So this would easily be a 6+ event, maybe a 6 to 12, with a very dry, fine, powdery snow. But unfortunately it's not, because if it were, it would make it easier. Charles Baker, 3 seasons, skipping spring. Some would argue it might only be 2 seasons because the falls have been warmer and seeming to getting underway later, so that the summer lasts longer. But yeah, I mean, a few people have been asking me about that. We're going to probably get to a point where we'll flip a switch one day and suddenly we'll be at 90. So don't be surprised if that happens somewhere along the line. Matthew Warman, I have you in that slushy several-inch area for southern Connecticut. That forecast is subject to change. David Schwartz, lettuce seeds have arrived, planting on them Sunday. You know, David, you point out something really important. If the spring plantings of lettuce, peas, they love the weather like this. They thrive on it. So this will make cold springs are great for those plants, those vegetables, because they just relish it and they will grow beautifully. You want it to stay the way it is. Richard Fauski, thank you very much. He likes my forecasts. I hope they come out right for you. And you are looking for TA65 mail, some spring weather. You're up in Maine. Well, not yet. Still got some work to do. Matthew Warman, I have bowling tournament Saturday, so it would likely be canceled. Okay, Matthew, I don't do that, okay? Airports, school closings, and all that, everybody's got their own criteria. Look, depending on intensity, it's likely that main roads will be more wet than anything else because this is all going to be falling during the daytime. Unless it snows really, really hard, then that changes the equation. We're not going to be able to come to any conclusion on that until we get a little bit closer to it. So maybe I really probably would have to wait almost to the last minute to figure that part of the equation out. Michael Whalen, thank you very much for being here, and thank you for the kind words. Really, really appreciate it. All right, folks, we're going to leave it here at this point. Craig Adams, you're in Eugene, Oregon, in the Willamette Valley. Nice. 7th of April. How strong do you think the winds will be here or there? Okay, here, the Saturday's probably not going to be overly windy. if you're talking about there, let me pull up. I can only, it's kind of hard for me. If I don't forecast for a particular zone for a long period of time, it gets difficult for me to really know what the local climate is out there. I can only guess. And you know what? The best thing to do probably is go to weather.gov and check go to the zone for the area that you're in, that you're going to. I'm just checking real quick off screen, looking at, what are the forecast wind conditions. I mean, there's going to be gales along the coast. It looks like it gets pretty windy there inland in Oregon on Saturday. Right along the immediate coast, and then I guess just along and west of the mountains there, showing sustained winds of 25 to 35. So I'm thinking there'll be gusts up into the 50s, and then the winds diminish as we go through Sunday and into Monday. But that, that's just a guess on my part. I really would strongly suggest that you go to weather.gov and then go on the map and click over the area in Oregon that you're going to, and take a look at it over there. But they're certainly much better suited to give you an accurate prediction than I am. Thank you, Mahogany 2680, for the kind words. Sherry Fox near Harrisburg, PA, love Pennsylvania too, and thank you for the kind words. I've got you in that zone. Let me bring up the snow map again for those of you who are joining late. Let me give you my snow forecast maps again for Friday and for Saturday. For Friday, it's a minor event Friday morning, and this is just going to be basically a quick shot, a coating to a couple of inches. In fact, southern Pennsylvania probably won't see much of anything out of this unless it suddenly got a little more bullish at the last minute. And when we look at Saturday, this is my early call on Saturday. So I've got your area in that potential for a slushy 4 inches or more, elevation driven. Notice for those of you elsewhere, a potential for several slushy inches of accumulation through much of central and northern New Jersey, New York City, Long Island, southern Connecticut, the Hudson Valley, urban heat island effect, in and around the urban areas. This might be a situation because it's going to be falling in the daytime. Well, those areas will get less, and those roads will be primarily wet. But you start to go out away from those urban areas into the more rural settings, and then you may have a more accumulation. Amounts go down as you go north, but be advised that we have seen these systems shift northward over time throughout much of this winter. That has been a corrective measure that we have had to use, pretty much with every event. So I don't think that it's, I don't see why that would change with this one. All right, thanks again, everybody, for being here. Tonight, 9:15 on my Facebook page, meteorologist Joe Cioffi, or on Joe Rayo's Facebook page, Joe Rayo Weather. We will have the Joe and Joe show, and we'll go over all of this again and come up with any new things, any new ideas and thoughts. Joe has his own opinions about this. Also, if you miss that or you're not on Facebook, I have been uploading the Joe and Joe show videos to YouTube. Last night I actually was able to get it up there before 10 o'clock Eastern time, so I will do that again. If I can do it before 10 o'clock, that'll be great, but otherwise I probably won't be able to upload it until closer to midnight. So if you're still up, you could watch it, or you can catch it tomorrow morning, even though understand that it's going to be just a little bit dated. Okay, folks, have a great rest of your evening. Thanks again for being here. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the subscribe button. We will see you later on the Joe and Joe show. Otherwise, we'll see you here tomorrow on my YouTube channel.